Hello and welcome to the episodes 12 and 13 recap video of Riverdale. We have 2 episodes to talk about, so I'm just going to get straight to the video. Episode 12 is Hiram Lodge's villain origin story, and that's the entire episode. In a nutshell, Reggie, who wants to quit working for his abusive father, asks Hiram for more responsibility, and Hiram says that if he can get him a gun, then yes. He ends up telling Reggie his life story, growing up in New York City with his parents. His father was a shoe shiner, and one day, in lieu of payment, one of his father's customers gives him a piece of palladium and tells Hiram Sr. that there's more in Riverdale. Hiram Sr. moves the whole family to Riverdale, and he works the mines until they eventually shut down, but there's no palladium to be found, so they have to go back to shining shoes outside of Pop's. One day, Hiram catches the local gangster's eye, and the gangster offers him a job making shady pickup and deliveries, and now that Hiram has some money, Hermione, his crush, finally pays attention to him. As Hiram rises in the ranks, his father, Hiram Sr., confronts him, and they have a falling out because Hiram doesn't want to struggle like his parents. He's also pretty greedy and likes power and material things. Hiram's boss ends up ordering a hit on Hiram Sr. because he meddled in his business. Eventually the boss runs out of town and Hiram becomes the crime boss of Riverdale. He also kills his ex-boss's cronies. Eventually he marries Hermione, Veronica's mom, and they move to New York City, but of course they return to Riverdale because of the palladium. Hiram builds a prison so that he has ownership of the land where the palladium supposedly is, and prisoners as cheap labor. At the end of the episode, Hiram uses the gun that Reggie got him to shoot his old boss, who is now an elderly man in a home. Reggie ends up confronting his father, who apologizes and acknowledges that he never did right by Reggie. Hiram still wants his palladium, and he swears to get it and his family back. In episode 13, we're back in Riverdale with the gang, and honestly I miss their shenanigans. We get a flashback of Archie's old military days, and he's woken up from a nightmare by another soldier who's in the house who's suffering from PTSD. Uncle Frank eventually gets the guy a pet because this has been known to help some veterans transition back to civilian life. I don't mind the storyline, there's more later. Betty and Tabitha, meanwhile, are working together to track the truckers and the possible missing girls. Betty approaches a guy and asks him if he wants some company. He turns out to be the FBI, and the rest of the FBI swarm around because they're about to make an arrest for solicitation. Betty's like, no, I'm actually FBI. Then we see her kind of dud of an ex-boyfriend, Glenn. Remember him? Remember when she stabbed him? She reminds him of that as well, by the way. Oh boy. He asks her to hand over her gun and her badge. Betty makes a good point by saying that they shouldn't be arresting these girls, they should be helping them. Then we get Cheryl in Little Red Riding Hood cosplay walking in the woods at night seeking inspiration for her next sermon. She bumps into Kevin, who's cruising. Veronica has some new money-making scheme. She's getting involved in investment banking. She reminds us that she was once called the She-Wolf of Wall Street. Reggie suggests helping her because he's a closer of deals, and Reggie closes the deal. Cheryl goes to see Kevin and tells him that she and her mother have a ministry and he should come to a service. Can I just remind everyone that Kevin got pretty deep into Edgar Never's cult, so he's highly susceptible to this kind of stuff. Luckily, he senses a vibe at the sermon and he leaves. Tabitha comes up with a plan and says they should offer something that would lure the truckers in. Betty suggests creating a Coyote Ugly theme at Fangs' bar in order to catch the killer. Please can we not have the awkward replay of Betty's onstage and dancing? But okay, this is not the worst idea. Cheryl later goes back to Kevin and she thinks Kevin is struggling with the Fangs breakup and she encourages him to go and apologize to Fangs. But when he does, Moose is there, who's also one of Kevin's ex-boyfriends. So basically both of Kevin's ex-boyfriends are dating each other. Veronica and Reggie hit the ground running and I'm getting such a Vincent Adultman energy from them. If you don't know, Vincent Adultman is a character from the TV show BoJack Horseman. It's just 3 kids in a trench coat and they somehow pass as an adult Vincent Adultman, but barely. Reggie tells Veronica that they should go after her father's investments, and they do. So I'm guessing we're going to get another daddy-daughter business war like back in the old days of Riverdale. Anyway, Uncle Frank tells Archie that the dog that they adopted is involved in an illegal dog fighting ring, and I guess now we know how Archie is going to be the hero this episode. So the gang all gets together and they do their Coyote Ugly night, and I can't lie, I'm excited for this. Okay, so it's happening, and it's nice to see Cheryl out and about and not in her Lady of the Manor setup. So as the girls are dancing, the guys are inspecting the truckers' trucks. Betty gives Kevin and Reggie FBI jackets and they inspect some guy's truck, but that ends up being a dead end. Archie, meanwhile, goes to bust up the illegal dog fighting ring. The whole plan was to rescue the dogs, but Archie goes off script and beats up the guy pretty badly. I'm okay with that. Betty's just about to go home when a trucker who missed the Wild Foxes performance, that's what they're called by the way, the Wild Foxes, asks her if she's down for some fun. She sees blood on the truck and she decides to go with him because it could be a lead. She also texts Tabitha to track her phone. He's a weirdo and she senses it. At one point he gets out of the truck and he gets a knife and he tries to come at Betty, but she manages to knock him out. He comes at her with a chainsaw then. He even saws through the truck, but Betty throws something at him and knocks him out. Then Tabitha arrives and she thinks that they should hand the guy over to the FBI, but Betty says that she needs to get some intel on Holly first. Kevin tells Cheryl that he thinks that he should be in New York living his dreams and not in dead-end Riverdale at a dying school. She makes him the new music director of her ministry to kind of motivate him, and at the next sermon they perform a song from Jesus Christ Superstar. Ugh, I can feel Kevin getting sucked in already. Again. Fangs tells Kevin that he'd love for them to be friends, so, they've made up. At the end of the episode, we see that Archie is hallucinating one of his army guys, the one that was on his team. It's clear he might still be suffering from some kind of PTSD. And he admits on the phone that he needs help. And that was episodes 12 and 13 of Riverdale. Honestly, it was better than I expected. I'm looking forward to seeing what Jughead's up to next week, hopefully, but other than that, it was a fine 2 episodes. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching.